and this right now is located at, we're at the Thornton Police Department. It's going to be moved to so this is kind of, doesn't make sense, but we're here. It's going to be moved to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. He's going to download it here, but I'm going to take it with me, just so you know. It's not staying here.
Okay.
They're not going to retain any of this. This comes with me.
Okay.
Okay?
Is there anything else you want on there? I think that's about...
That's it. I mean, I don't have social media. I don't really have anything else you guys can pull.
Okay.
Is there anything else you know of that could help us with this that is not on this sheet?
As far as, like, data?
That's on your phone?
No. I mean, everything we did was, like, text and talk, pretty much. I mean, and like I said, any pictures that I had, like, even if you were to restore all my regular photos, there's so many pictures in there and you wouldn't even know which ones were for him and which ones weren't. But any picture that I wanted to send to him, I sent via text. So if you guys go through the text and the attachments, you will have everything that wasn't said verbally and was done via text. But I think that's it. Like, I don't have anything else. As far as, like, no Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter, no LinkedIn, like, none of it. So there was never any of that kind of correspondence. So I think that should probably cover everything you guys will need.
Is there any particular messages that would help me so I don't have to look at? Because whatever's on your phone, I don't know how long we're going to get back to, but let's say is there a particular date or time or message that stands out to you that would be relative to, specifically to the investigation into this case, that might assist me in understanding why something like this could have occurred?
I'm still in shock that this whole thing happened.
I can imagine.
That's why I gave him the benefit of the doubt for the first day, because I was just like, no way. Like, I didn't even think about that. I mean, murder was not on the top of my mind when somebody doesn't come home for an evening, especially if they just, like, had some sort of, like, heated conversation. It's like, okay, you guys are separating, you have a heated conversation, you leave for a night. Like, I didn't even think this guy killed his wife. I mean, that like, murder is on something on the top of my mind when I call one of my friends for 3 or 4 hours and she doesn't answer the phone. Like, that doesn't even process to me as, like, a real thing that is a possibility at that point. And so that's why I gave it a day, and then the second day I was talking to him, he was just, like, a hot mess, I could tell. And then with, like, the way he was talking to me, and then that's kind of when I cut him off and I stopped talking to him. And then...
So remember what you just said, and we're going to get to that, because that's probably a very important conversation.
So if you want to know days, I would probably honestly just start at, like, Sunday and work your way forward. I mean, all the rest of that stuff, it's just, like, the small talk of, like, hey, this, you know? I mean...
And your relationship building through the 6 weeks.
I mean, like, and if you go, like, maybe, like, a week further back, like, there's times, like, I was trying to help him find an apartment, like, just for him, not for me, but for him and his kids, to get set up. And, like, there's times where I'm like, well, where's your wife moving to? Like, how close is she going to be to you? You should be within, like, 30 minutes of your kids, so they're close. And, like, you want to be close to their school and close to your gym. And, like, what's your price range? Like, I was helping him get all of this stuff set up. And it was, like, in a very decent manner. And I don't know if all of that is in text. Some of it's probably on the phone. Like, at this point, I've talked to him so much that I don't even know which parts are, like, verbalized and which parts are texted at this point, but we can figure it out.
Okay. You see what I wrote? Text messages between Chris Watts and attachments, and then the phone logs for calls between your phone number and Chris Watts. Mm-hmm. Those are the 2 things that we'll ask to be extracted from your phone. So if you're okay with that.
Why does it say as removed cell phone data? Isn't that this?
That is that, and that's what he's going to remove, and then that officer is going to fill that out.
Gotcha. What is the date? I don't even know what
today is. The 16th.
You want to add anything to this?
If you give us your phone, we'll get him started.
We want to give you everything, but we also want to be protected in doing so. Is more of the...
Sure.
Was more of the thing. It's just...
And when he's done, we'll give you a copy.
Is there a password or anything? Like, will it lock up after a period of time?
Yeah.
Right here.
That's what notes. And
Make sure there's nothing written on the back.
There's not. I checked before I ripped it off.
Let's go back to North Carolina.
Okay.
He went to North Carolina and he was trying to rehab his marriage with his wife.
He
Do
said.
you know her name at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you okay saying her name?
It's Shannan.
All right. And do you know the children's name?
Yes, it's Bella and Celeste.
Okay.
Cece.
She went by, they called her Cece?
Mhm.
All right. So he went to, were they in North Carolina
They were already
already?
there.
If you want something.
I don't know if my stomach would do that. Yeah, they were already out there. He just flew out there to meet up.
Do you know why they were there?
They're all from there.
Okay, so they were there
They
for...
were visiting her family for the most part until he got there. And then they still were mostly visiting her family.
Okay. Hey, do you know how long they had been there?
A while. Like weeks.
All right. And he flew out to join his family there.
Yep.
Did you know specifically where he flew to?
What, airport?
No. What city?
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay.
I'm sure if I thought real hard, maybe I could think about it, but I mean, come up with it. No, I don't know.
All right. So he goes there. You said it was like the last week of July?
I think so. I think it was like one of the last days of July. I'm almost positive. I think it was a weekday.
Okay.
Yeah, he flew out there, and I thought I had like convinced him to like try to make peace with her, and I was like, if you guys work on this, like, I'm out, because what's the point? Like, I'm not trying to be with somebody that's in another relationship, which I know that sounds silly given the whole relationship that we had in the first place, but I really was under the impression that they were separating. I mean, it was like reiterated to me so many times that that's what I thought it was. And it made sense to me too, because like he could pretty much call me whenever he wanted. Like I was the one that would tell him like, hey, when your kids are awake, you need to spend time with your kids. Like do that. And then after they go to bed, like if you want to talk to me, you can talk to me. But it was never like this super, super restricted thing. Like sometimes, like right after work, if I was like still talking to him, I get kind of bummed out, and I tell him, just like, oh, it's frustrating sometimes, like having to like wait. But at the same time, I was never like, this is horrible, or it was always like I understood why. But then once his kids were asleep, he never like had any. It was like he could do what he wanted. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Sure.
He was in his basement and she's upstairs and they're not speaking. So it kind of made sense. It wasn't like...
And you guys were
sneaky
just
at night.
texting and...
Or talking or whatever,
Right.
I mean, and it was like I said, it was at certain times, but that time, and originally it wasn't, but it was me that put that time frame on there because I thought he should hang out with his kids.
Those 2 times you were at his house, did you see any evidence of that? Him living in the basement? Did he ever show you that area or anything?
I've seen it, yeah. I went down there and saw his little workout equipment, and there's a bed down there all set up in the basement. It was all clean and organized and stuff, so like a decent bed set up. So it made sense to me, like, hey, this is what's happening down here. So I saw it.
Even though his family was in North Carolina for multiple weeks, it appeared that he was still living in the basement.
Well, and he told me sometimes he would like go upstairs and sleep if like he was home alone, because I know she'd like go on business trips and stuff. But he's like, I don't like that bed anyway, so he didn't really like sleep up there. I was like, okay. Even when it was just him. So
Okay.
that was the impression that I got. I don't know what you're talking about. North Carolina.
Go back to North Carolina.
North Carolina. So he still made very frequent communication with me when he was out there, and at one point he told me that they sat down and they talked about it, and he told her that he wanted to either fix things or like to try to fix things, and if she didn't want to fix them, then they needed to like move forward with the separation and like actually file for a divorce at this point was the impression that I got from this, and was what he told me. And so he said that she was like pretty receptive to just not trying. He was like, she seemed like she just wants me to go. He's like, when she has her mind made up, she has her mind made up, and that's what she wants. And he's like, she doesn't want to try anymore. And he's like, and neither do I really. And he was like, it's done. And he's like, and then the next day, I don't even know what days these were. Sometime when he was out there, he told me, we're putting the house up for sale as soon as we get back. And I was like, well, that was quick. And he was like, it's her. She's ready to go. And I was like, okay. And so I left it at that. And then he got back, and I started asking him, like, what are you going to do? Because the Colorado housing market is fire, and you guys are going to sell this house, like, real fast. And I'm like, you need to start looking for a new place to live. And I'm like, where do you want to live? And I was really trying to help him out. I'm like, do you want to get a house? Do you want 3 bedrooms so you have one and each of your girls have one? I'm like, do you want to, you know, like, do an apartment? Like, what do you want? You know, where do you want to live? Because he's in Frederick, but that whole area over there is just like a bunch of small towns, and you can kind of just pick and choose. Everything's kind of, you know, and so he told me, well, I like Brighton, and I was like, okay. And then he told me he wanted a 2-bedroom apartment, and he said he wanted 1 room for him and the other room for his 2 girls. And I thought it was kind of cute. Like, I remember telling him, I was like, yeah, me and my sister had bunk beds, like, at my dad's house. And I was like, when we were little girls, and me and my sister were the same age apart as him and as his 2 daughters, you know. So I told him, I was like, they're going to love it. I was like, they might be, like, stuck in one room together. I was like, but they'll become, like, best buddies. And it was really exciting. Like, I liked helping him, and I just wanted him to, like, I don't know. This is what he told me he wanted. So I was like, well, I will help you do the research. But another thing that I really took care of was to be like, where is she moving to? I was never like, you know what, screw your wife, try to get full custody. None of that bullshit. It was always just like, you know, I'd ask him, I'm like, well, what kind of custody are you guys going to have? Because he at work, they're about to switch his schedule. So right now he's like a Monday through Friday, and they're about to switch these guys to 8 days on, 6 days off.
That's tough.
That's awesome. And I was asking him, I was like, are you going to have your kids, like, on that set of days off? I was like, because that would work perfect, like 1 week on, 1 week off. And I was just like, you know, we just talk about it. And I'm like, what is your plan? And he's like, we haven't figured out exactly what we're going to do about the kids yet. But he told me, he's like, Colorado's a 50-50 state, and she's okay with everything 50-50. Like, he said that she was, like, on board with this because she wanted it too. Like, she was checked out of this relationship. So that was, like, how he made this sound. That it was, like, a very, like, kosher, we're done kind of thing.
Did you ever give him, like, books or articles or anything to read about saving your marriage? Did you ever provide anything to him like that?
About saving his marriage?
Yeah, like how to recover a marriage or how to save your marriage. You know, there's all sorts of publications and books out there.
No, but I did tell him, and I don't know if I did this through text or phone. That will be something you guys will, I'm sure, figure out. But I told him a few times, like, I think that you should take the time to read some articles about what separation does to kids. You know, and I told him, I said, when my parents separated, we were literally like 3 and 5. We were almost the exact same age as these little girls. And I told him, I said, you know, I was so young when it happened that it didn't really have like a big negative effect on me because I was so small that I didn't really process it too well. I was like, but I do have cousins that their parents got divorced when they were like 10, 11, and I think that it hit them a little harder. You know, and he's like, oh, they'll be fine, you know, and I told him, I was like, even though they're small and you think that they'll be fine, I was like, I think you guys should just read about it just so that you guys are prepared in case, you know, one of these two starts having a hard time with the fact that you guys aren't in the same house anymore, you know, and I would tell him, I was like, you know, there's pros and cons to it, like, because he was like getting ready to do it, and it would be like, you know, it's kind of cool having 2 Christmases, and, you know, like, your parents get to go, you know, be happy doing whatever it is they want to do with their lives, and they don't have to be in a situation that's probably not good for the kids because it's not good for those two, you know, but at the same time, it was like, just read. Like, that's what I always used to tell him. I'd always tell him to, like, I tell people to read about everything. Reading is so good for you.
So he, at this time, is telling you that, yeah, I am the guy trying to save the marriage and she doesn't want it.
That's what he told me. So, and then he was like, she doesn't want it, so I'm not going to do it. And then it was like, we're filing for divorce, we're selling the house, and this was like all as soon as they were coming back from North Carolina, like boom, 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 boom.
Would you recall when he gets back from North Carolina?
No, I don't even know how long he was out there. I know it was like less than 2 weeks and more than one.
Okay.
I don't remember.
So he comes back early August. Would that be fair?
Oh yeah, it was definitely like in the first 2 weeks somewhere.
All right.
Probably the second week of August at some point in that. I don't remember when.
Does his wife come back with him at that time? Or
Yeah,
does
they
he,
all came back.
They all come back at the same
They
time?
all came back. And then, yeah, so he continues to just, tell me that this is like what he wants. And so I took the time, and you will see that in the text too, where I I found this apartment. It was perfect. It was so cute. I was like, it's in your price range. It's like 6 miles from the gym. It's 23 miles from work. I'm like, it's super close to Frederick. It's going to be by your kid's school. Like, this is the spot, and I told him, I was like, I'll keep looking for more places. And he's like, well, there's some that I want to go see too. And he actually had me thinking that he was going to go look at these places this week. Before all
Okay,
this.
so this is fairly recent then, if we're
this
talking.
just happened, like in the last.
He's going to
couple
go
weeks.
look at apartments.
He wanted me to go
during,
with him.
When you say this week, are you saying
Like this
Monday
this
was
week.
the 13th?
Like this week.
Okay.
Yeah, so I told him, I was like, well, pick out a few spots, and if you want me to come with you, I'll go look at them. But you know.
You said earlier that he had never, or that the apartment wasn't for you and him. It was just for him and his children.
Oh yes.
It was. You had no intentions of moving in with him.
No, I have my own spot. I still have a lease there till July, and even then, like, he never asked me to move in with him,
Okay.
and I never tried to move in with him. I mean, I told him. I really try to take everything with this whole situation very slow. The only part that I screwed up on was the fact that he wasn't completely separated from her when him and I decided to spend time with each other. That is where I screwed up. But other than that, everything else, it was always like, you build your life, I'm going to build my life, we will intertwine them, but I am not ready to, do this. And he respected that. And I even said that, and I don't know, that might be in the text, but said that too, where it's like, Chris, you need space. You're just getting out of a divorce. Personally, I think jumping into a new relationship is a little quick. It's like, I was in a relationship earlier this year, and I think this is also a little quick. And I'm like, so why don't we take our time? And I'm like, if you guys end up doing a week on, a week off with your kids, I'm like, the week you have your kids, be with your children. And the week that you don't, I'm like, I don't even want to see you every day. I'm like, I think we should spend a few days of that together. I'm like, because I like my space, and I think you need your space. I think you need your space to develop your identity again and get it back, because I think he's just been so wrapped up in this whole thing that he's got in his own life and his life that he doesn't remember probably what it's like to be single or have time where it's just him.
Sure.
And so I was just embrace that. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I really try to take it smart with all that. And it was the same thing with his kids. I was just and we talk about things every once in a while where I'd be like, hey, if I ever meet, because I have a lot of house plants. That's a good example. So I have a lot of house plants, and I told him, I was like, one day if I ever meet your kids, I was like, I'm going to show these girls how to paint pottery and plants. I was like, I think they would love to see something grow that they built. I think it would be really, really cute. And little stuff like that, but it wasn't very frequent. It wasn't, hey, we should get married, and hey, we should have babies, and hey, I want to live with you, and hey, I need to meet your children now, and let's cut the mom out. It was never like that.
And there was never any conversation about, we can't do this with her around, we can't do this with the kids around.
No.
He never said that, you never said that.
No.
So the way you guys were trying to make this work was just slowly trying to come together because of his current situation, and you, by your own account,
Mine.
you're just a independent person. It sounds like pretty much,
Yeah.
and but through text message or through conversation, he never said, "Hey, this isn't going to be financially able. I'm not going to be financially able to do this," or "This isn't a good thing. I got these kids." None of those conversations ever came up.
No. He told me he had a budget restriction. So for his apartment, and I'm pretty sure this is in the text, and this will probably be in the last couple weeks, he told me 1,100 to 1,400 when I was asking him. Like, because I told him I'd help him do homework. I was like, you do some homework, I'll do some homework. We'll knock this out, because if you guys are for real putting the house up, you got to figure it out. And so that was his budget. And I remember asking him, I was like, you sure you don't want to just get like a house? And he's like, I never thought about a house. I'm like, yeah, you can rent houses, man. Like, it's a thing. And he's just like, I don't know if I can afford that. And I was like, okay. And I knew that those two had been through some financial trouble. I definitely found out a lot more about that situation in the newspaper recently.
Okay, so prior to the newspaper, how did you know he was in financial difficulty?
Because when I went to that house, everything in there is very, 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 very nice. It looks like it all comes with a very expensive price tag. And I didn't say anything to him about it, but I could kind of tell then, where I was like just looking at everything like, how do you guys afford this? And then he has that car. I don't even know how much that car costs, but I bet it's
what car is
that Lexus. I'm sure that thing costs like 80 grand, but just like money. Like everything just looked like it costs a lot of money in that house.
You probably have a decent idea of how much money he makes.
Yeah, and it's not enough money to pay for all that. Not even close.
Did you have any idea of what Shannan did for a living, or how much money she might have made?
I mean, I had an idea. I would consider her like a sales rep. I don't know how else to describe that. For the company that she worked for. And I don't know exactly how much she made. He said that she was really competitive and she liked to try to keep up with him. He's like, she gets close sometimes. So I don't know how much those two brought in. I mean, off the top of my head, if I could guess, probably somewhere around like $140K a year. I mean, I don't know. Because I don't know exactly how much he makes. And I don't know exactly how much she makes. But based just off of like what I know about the oil field, like, yeah, I would say that's probably an accurate estimate.
So even if they're making, let's just use the figure $100,000, they're living above their means or below their means?
Oh my God, like
way too much.
Way.
Did he ever discuss with you any of those issues?
I mean, a little. I mean, I didn't know about the bankruptcy or any of that till I read on the newspaper about that. But I think he was really frustrated with the situation. He told me, he's like, I feel like my paycheck goes in my bank account and I just watch it go like this. He's like, but it doesn't have to. He's like, she makes it like that. And I was just
so was he resentful for that?
I don't know if he was resentful. I just think he was frustrated by the fact that they could be doing a lot better financially, and she, from the vibe that I got, had really bad spending habits.
So she was a spender. The car, hers or his?
I think it's hers.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that that's hers.
Do you know what other car they might have?
Well, I mean, his APC pickup truck.
And that's
it, I think.
That's owned by Anadarko, though, right?
Yeah. But so I don't think they own any other vehicles, as far as I know. I think it's just that thing.
And Anadarko doesn't allow him to drive that on his own personal time, right?
No.
So he's just got one vehicle.
Yep.
And it's a very expensive Lexus. And then they live in a pretty expensive house.
It's a huge house.
Yeah.
I was very taken back when I saw it. I was just like, whoa. How
and then
do you
the
guys...
fixtures inside caused you to pause.
Everything was just like...
And then you mentioned today you read something about bankruptcy.
Yep.
What did you read?
That those guys filed bankruptcy for a lot of money.
Who are those guys?
That couple.
Okay.
In 2015. Oh, Shannan and Chris.
Thanks.
Filed bankruptcy in 2015.
Okay. And you said for a lot of money. Do you recall the amount?
No, because it was different in each of the newspapers, and I don't know which one to believe.
Okay.
So, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, yeah, I didn't know that.
Let's go just back to him and the financial. He tells you he has a concern enough to at least express something to you that he's frustrated with the way she spends, or he's upset with working so hard and never having any money, and she's kind of the responsible party for spending most of the money.
I pretty much got that vibe. I mean, he just told me, he's like, we're house broke all the time. I was just like, that's unfortunate. And I asked him, I was like, do you have 401k? And he was like, yeah. And I mean, the reason I ask him this is because if I get in a relationship with somebody, I want to know, like, what kind of baggage that they have. I think that's important if I walk into a situation where I'm like, hey, I have good credit and I have all these things that I've been building, and you don't have your stuff together, like, what are we going to do with this? And it's important for your long-term
You're smart.
thing. So I'm preparing. And so I just asked him, I was like, well, do you have 401k? And he's like, yeah, I do have that. And then I asked him, I was like, I didn't ask him, like, how much debt they had or anything, but I just said, is your lifestyle sustainable? And he was like, no.
Okay.
And I was like, how long do you think that's going to take? He's like, I don't know, but it's not sustainable.
Where did his girls go to school?
I don't know. He never actually told me. Like, when I asked him once, it was like when I was trying to find him an apartment, I was like, are you comfortable telling me where your girls go to school? That's in the text too. I was like, so I can figure out what distance from the apartment it is. I was trying to just make his life convenient with, like, him, his ex, his kids, and all the stuff that he needs to do and work. And he was like, don't worry about it. Their school's pretty centrally located, so anywhere in the area that we were discussing will be fine. And he just left it at that. So he didn't even tell me, which was fine. I respect that.
Daycare is obviously very expensive for a 3 and 5 year old.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So
I understand.
did he ever bring did he ever discuss that?
Never.
Okay.
Never. Like I said, the only financial thing he ever said is just like, she just likes to spend money, like a lot of it. So that was just kind of the vibe that I got from that, and that it was a lifestyle that she liked to live, like, very, like, materialistic kind of lifestyle.
Wanted to
Like, it
project
was-
a certain image.
Yes, all the time. And he said that was why they got that house too. It's like she wants everybody to think that we live a certain way and that we can, like, sustain all this stuff. And he's like, and we can't. And I told him, I said, when you're in those situations, why don't you, I'm like, do you like voice your concern about this? And he told me, he's like, when I try to talk to her, he's like, she's really bossy and she usually shuts me out. And he's like, when she does that, he's like, I just let it go. And I'm just like, all right. I mean, I don't try to, like, interfere with how those two interact. But I did ask about it because I'm just curious, because I would never put myself in a situation where someone was like, you know what, we're going to live in this house that costs, like, double what we can afford, and that's how it's going to be, because I want everybody to think we're fancy. Because I wouldn't do that. I mean, to me, like, I wouldn't put up with somebody doing that to me. And I'm not saying that that's what she was doing. I mean, for all I know, he could have been completely lying about this. He could be the one spending all the money.
Sure.
You know?
This is just what he told you.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's as far as I can interpret it. So I can't be like, well, oh, she needs to do this and she needs to do that. But he voiced his concern where it's just like, financially, I'm in a very bad spot that I don't need to be in, but I'm stuck in. And that was kind of where he was at. So, but I mean, he was never, like, mean when he talked about her. He was never hostile, like, nothing like that. He just, I mean, very calmly, like, this is the situation. And I think the only reason that he even provided me with that information is because I asked.
Okay. You said something about her being controlling or
Bossy.
bossy
That's what he said. Bossy.
in, like, all aspects of their life, or what? Do you know exactly what he meant by that? How that affected him?
I think he was just saying when he voices his opinion, it's not heard. Is the gist of that, which I thought, from what it sounded like from their separation, from them trying to separate, that was a big deal for him, where he was saying that the reason that they don't really get along anymore is because he feels like he's not heard. He says that he comes home from work and he tries to talk to her and she'll just be like, 1 minute, I'm on the phone. Or she'll, like, scroll through social media and she, like, doesn't acknowledge him. And he said that he'd addressed it with her a few times and they're calm. He said they don't really, like, fight. Like, they don't scream and yell. And he said he'd addressed it with her a few times and he said it just fell on deaf ears. He's like, she just seems like she's not interested anymore. And I think it made him sad because, I mean, he was, like, all about his kids and he seemed like he was trying to be all about her, but it just wasn't reciprocated. And I think at that point he was just like, they just kind of, like, fell apart.
Okay.
Just kind of drifted apart.
Was that your words or his?
What, that they
fell apart?
Those are mine.
Okay.
Those are mine. He just said that they didn't communicate very well. And it wasn't in a aggressive way communicate. It was just the fact that they didn't communicate at all.
They just
They didn't talk.
they had children, and they was there ever mention that he was trying to resolve or save his marriage for the children's sake? A lot of people talk
Yes.
about that. Did he
Yes.
talk about that?
I mean, he told me that he believed that the only reason that those two had still been doing it as long as they've been doing it, 'cause he told me that her and him have had communication issues for about 6 years, where she just seems really detached and uninterested in trying to build something with him. And he said, and I said, 6 years is a really long time for you guys to not fix that, considering they were married for 8? I mean, that's the majority of their marriage. And he said, sometimes I think we just do it for the kids or something like that. I mean, it's been a long time since I had
Sure.
some of these conversations, so I don't know verbatim,
And that's
but it was
we're trying
pretty
to
much just
get you to remember some
yeah,
things.
but he said it wasn't just him though. He was I think she does that too.
Okay.
I mean, and it was this equal part where they are just kind of going through the motions, I think.
Mhm.
And so, when he told me that she was cool with the 50% everything and just breaking it off and being really civil about it, it kind of made sense to me, because I was the way he made this sound, it wasn't, oh, she's this horrible person, or oh, I'm this horrible person. It was, her and I have drifted so far apart that it's kind of a mutual agreement that this is not going to work.
So in those 6 years, though, they had 2 children.
Yep.
And you said earlier you did not know she was pregnant until reading the newspaper.
Yep.
So that never came up in any conversation. There was no indications that was going on.
None.
He never hinted to anything like that. As far as you knew, he was just leaving her. He had 2 children, and that was the final take on that.
Yes. I know why he lied to me. He lied to me because if I'd have known that he had a child on the way, I'd have never wasted my time with him in the first place. None of this would have ever even occurred if he would have just told me the truth.
So do you think if he found out that you, if, let's say this week you guys were to go look at some apartments, and this is hypothetical, but you've never found out that his wife was pregnant, would that have changed anything? Like you just said, if I knew his wife was pregnant, I wouldn't be in this picture. So if his wife was not pregnant, and forgive me, but if he takes her out of the picture, you're never going to know that she was pregnant, right?
What do you mean takes her out of the picture?
If he murdered her, she's out of the picture. You're never going to know if she was pregnant. If he can get away with murder, you're not going to... I got divorced from my wife. You say, do you understand what I'm saying here? If she's gone...
But this...
Don't lead,
Hypothetically.
please.
Yeah,
Don't lead on.
hypothetically. If she...
Okay.
You understand where I'm going? If
Right,
you
but
didn't know...
You're leading into
Right.
questions that are nothing with your...
If you didn't know, though,
Wait, Nick,
that she was there...
did you hear what I said?
I'm following you. I just want her to answer a question that relates to... She said something that's important, that if he didn't have a child on the way, or if she didn't know that, she would have continued the relationship, right?
But he killed his kids. At what point does he think that I'm going to be in a relationship?
I'm not talking about the children. I'm just talking specifically about her. If you only knew, if the kids were still here, and he called you and said, "I'm divorced from my wife," and he gets away with this, do you understand what I'm thinking from his aspect?
I still wouldn't do it. I still wouldn't do it because I'd be like, where did she go?
Okay.
Because I'm under the impression that she's a really good mom. He never bashed her momming skills. No, I wouldn't, no.
Okay.
No.
And that, you see where I'm trying to take that?
Yes.
So you guys never had a conversation about the child, period.
I didn't know
Okay.
at all.
All right. And by your words, if you did know, you would have ended the relationship.
Well, because it wouldn't have made sense to me that he's like, I'm getting separated. Oh, by the way, I have a baby on the way. It's like,
That's 15 weeks.
You are a liar. You're just trying to sleep with me. That's what I would have probably interpreted that as, and I'd have just shut that off at work, and that would have been the end of it.
Okay. All right. We can move past that. The week that he comes back from North Carolina, you don't remember, somewhere in the first couple weeks of August.
Yeah, I think it was the second week, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
So we'll just use August as a time frame. Is that fair? Because you know he left in July and he comes back in August. How many times do you think you see him?
I saw him a few times. I saw him this past Saturday. I saw him the Wednesday before that. And he wanted to see me more. I was the one who wanted my space. I was like, nope, your kids are home. Go hang out with your kids. And even on Wednesday, I cut it short. Like, he came and hang out with me for a few hours, and then I was like, go chill with your kids.
Okay.
I was always like,
Do
really
you
respectful
know
of their
specifically where you guys went? Did you meet at your house? Did you guys go to any restaurants? Did you go to establishments? Where'd you go?
Last Wednesday, he came to my house, and this past Saturday, we went to, what's the name of that bar that we used to go to? It's not the same, the Lazy Dog, but it's the one off of 144th and I-25. I think it's 144th, up there.
And it's the Lazy Dog?
Yes.
Did he ever mention a Rockies game that night?
No, I don't think so. But there was a, the Broncos were playing.
Okay.
Which we couldn't see because they sat us in really crappy spots, but it's okay because it's preseason. But,
So do you recall what time you went there?
no. I remember, well, kind of. So he had to get a babysitter that night.
Do you know who that was?
Somebody who's really young. I remember I asked him who his babysitter was, and he's like, we have two. This girl's only 17, but the other one's out of town. So this girl's going to stay, and she doesn't do overnights. So I got to be back by 10. And I remember her saying that, and him saying that. And I don't know what time he got to my house. It was between, I want to say like 5:30. It might have been 5, but I don't think so. Because I think the babysitter, if I remember correctly, showed up at like 4:30 or something. And he was like, I want to spend time getting my kids acclimated to her, and then I will come.
So his children didn't even know her?
Oh, no, they knew her, but he was saying like he likes to like stay there for a little while. He doesn't just like walk out the door when they show up. It's like a transitional thing. And so that's why I'm saying I don't know how long it was. I want to say like 5:30, and then he had to be back by 10, so he left at like 9 something to be back by 10.
So he picks you up. What was he driving?
No, he didn't pick me up. He came to my house. We drove my truck.
Okay. So he gets to your house. You know what he was driving to get to your house?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember. I'm pretty sure he usually drives that Lexus, but he doesn't always park it in my complex because the parking, there's not good spaces. So where you guys pick me up at, a lot of times he'll just park out there because there's room.
Okay.
So that kind of works so that because there's just not a lot of room in my apartment complex. But off the top of my head, I don't know what he was driving.
What kind of truck do you drive?
I drive a Toyota 4Runner.
Okay. So you guys take your 4Runner to the Lazy Dog.
Yep.
And you said they sat you in crappy locations.
It's
Where
just
were you inside the bar?
When you walk in, you just hang a right, and we were like one of the first two booths on the right when you walk in the door. It's just not it's a good spot, but just not for the TVs. And we actually went to the other Lazy Dog. We went to the one that you and me go to. Where's that at? Federal and
20th.
It's 120th and Federal, and we went there, and they have a different menu, and I was like, I don't want to eat this food. So we should go to the other one.
So initially you go to the 120th
Yes.
location. Did you actually get seated?
Kind of, sort of. They were like cleaning off a table, and we were standing there just kind of looking at the beer menu and the food menu, and I was like, I don't want this. And so we left.
6 o'clock?
Probably somewhere around there, 6:30, and then we left and went to the other one, and we ate dinner.
And you're in like first or second booth right to the right of the door. I'm just asking because if they have video, we want to be able to verify that. So that's why it's important. And you're there for how long?
I don't know. Probably we didn't stay for dessert, so I don't know how long.